I want to offer just some brief reflections on the significance of that Paschal mystery we're celebrating here at the beginning of Easter Day. In biblical terms, as I said before, this is the beginning of tomorrow. So we've started into Easter already. And I'd just like to invite you to go back to those first two readings which we heard in the darkness as the fire was burning down, and we were listening to three different reflexes from the story of salvation. There are many other passages we could read, and a long time ago when I was a theological student, we read all seven, and we had a psalm after each one and did a whole lot of other things as well. But we've just focused in on three, and I want to highlight their significance for us as we prepare for our Easter celebrations tomorrow. You'll recall there was a reading from Genesis, there was a reading from Exodus, and there was a reading from the prophets, from Ezekiel. So let's just quickly touch base on what those three moments, those three reflexes might say to us. The story of creation, of course, we read that because we believe that fundamentally what we're celebrating at Easter time is true of the cosmos. It's embedded in creation. It was not an afterthought. It was not plan B. Rather, it has always been like this, that the God who calls the universe into being would continue to call it to reconciliation and would eventually come amongst us to be the call, to be that invitation to the life, to the love which beats at the heart of the universe. So as part of our faith, and as part of the faith that we share with many other faith communities around the world. The second reading focuses in particularly on the story of the exodus of the Hebrew slaves or the Israelite people from Egypt. It's one of the great classic stories of liberation and of national identity and of community formation. And that story reminds us that the story of faith which we celebrate and which we live has been hammered out in the lived experience of real people who had to navigate life with as many challenges and contradictions as we have to deal with. But as they went through the historical circumstances of their existence, they found that their theoretical faith in the God of creation was actually validated and reaffirmed by their lived experience. We hope that'll be your experience this Easter, which of course is not just a one-day event. We will be in Easter mode for 50 days. And during those great 50 days, I pray that you will find in your own lived experience right now, even in the midst of the coronavirus and everything else which makes life seem so weird, so out of place, that your lived experience will be the God who turns things around, the God who rescues us from defeat, the God who transforms our lives and gives us hope. The final reading from the prophet was a beautiful prophetic text from ancient Israel talking about the need for this to become personal. We have beliefs about the universe. We have an understanding of how God is embedded in and has called out into existence the whole of reality. We have our shared lived experience with other people, and as Christians, with our shared experience with those who have gone before us in the faith, including, of course, the Jewish people whose faith story stretches back even further than our own. But in the end, Easter is not a theory about the universe, nor is it a piece of collective wisdom which we've hammered out through the lived experience of our community and of ourselves, important though those things are. Easter ultimately has to become personal. It has to become us saying yes to God as Jesus did. And it has to become that moment when instead of religion being something out there, as the prophet said, religion, the covenant, is written on our hearts. It becomes internalized. It becomes personal. So that's my prayer for us this Easter, that we would affirm our faith in the presence of God in every part and element of the universe. We would embrace the wisdom which has been culled out of the lived experience of our lives and our people. But most of all, I pray that Easter will become personal and that you will open your heart so that the covenant between God and you is embedded deep within your innermost self forever. Amen.